magic is a cheat card in life. It's a cheat code. I can go anywhere in the world. I don't care if I know the language. I don't care if I know the people, the culture, nothing. I have a way to amaze you, and amazement is universal.
So I want to start kind of at the beginning. What was your childhood like? I know you were born in Israel and you moved here very young. So what was it like kind of coming over here and growing up?
I moved here when I was 3, and I don't know. I don't know any other way to put it. I loved being here. I think I had a pretty happy childhood. I had 2 older sisters that were twins, 8 years older, that I think I drove crazy if you asked them. I was somewhat of an annoying kid, always very obsessive. So I think with anything I got into, it was never 80%, 90%, it was 120%. And magic was the same, let me tell you. When I got into that craft, I got kind of obsessed.
Did you ever envision this career?
Never.
How did you get exposed?
Never. This is like, it's a good hobby for a doctor, is what a Jewish mother would say. A magician, is that really? They're like, no, really, what do you actually do for work? I did not know that this could be a profession. I didn't even have that model. You know when you watch a movie star on TV, or you don't think like, I'm gonna be the movie star. Maybe some people do, I never thought that. And I just did not know this was on the multiple choice, until it was.
So who was the person who did expose you to this kind of?
So I went on a cruise when I was 13 years old. That was the first cruise we've ever been on. And we saw a magician on this cruise ship. I had never seen a magician live before, not even at like a kid's birthday. Blown away. I was absolutely shell-shocked. I'm like, what? I was stalking this guy on the boat. He didn't even to go. He's stuck on the boat. And he brought me on stage. I think my dad bribed him. And from that moment on, I got home, hit the ground running. I went to the library. I checked out every single book, cover to cover. I went to Borders. They're not in business anymore. I checked out every Borders book. I bought every Borders book. I saved up money. I started doing kids' birthdays. I just kind of started learning how to do sleight of hand magic.
Do you remember your first trick?
I remember the first trick I commercially bought, because some tricks are sleight of hand where you learn moves, and some tricks are gimmicks, which is something like you buy a trick. The first trick I ever bought is a deck of cards that's called the rising card deck, where you pick one out, you put it back, and it rises up out of the deck. I'm sworn to secrecy, but I bought it. They bring you into a kind of a back room, and they show you how to do it, and I was hooked.
So you get exposed to this, you get interested, it becomes a hobby, you're doing this.
Semi-pro, I was working it.
Yeah.
This is Forbes, baby, I had to make that money.
Carrying around a deck of cards. You get to college, University of Michigan, and then you go work at Merrill Lynch. Obviously, you weren't thinking of being a magician full-time at that point. What kind of happened in corporate America? Why the pivot, why the change?
So I was always doing this on the side, very important. I was performing the entire time I was in college to pay my tuition, to pay my rent, to pay for my books. So I always was doing this. I had a couple other side businesses as well, because my folks had gotten divorced, they moved back to Israel, and I was self-sufficient. Nobody was paying these bills for me. So I was always using magic as what I would describe as a hustle. It's the way I met people, it's the way I networked. Even to get my job on Wall Street for my internship, on my resume, what's that bullet point say? Justin said, professional magician. If you think that after the end of every single interview, people then go, what do you mean professional magician? And I go, oh, you know what? If we have time at the end, let me show you a little something. I feel bad for the person after me. Every one of my interviews ran like 15 minutes over. I'm doing this trick, they're getting the other people in. Everything was like a domino effect. Like the other interviews were pushed later because they wanted to see me. And at the end, you get that wink and the nod of like, don't worry, you'll be hearing from us later. Because you win people over. It's just a fascinating thing to do. Magic is a cheat card in life. It's a cheat code. I can go anywhere in the world. I don't care if I know the language. I don't care if I know the people, the culture, nothing. I have a way to amaze you. And amazement is universal. Laughter and amazement transcends all boundaries. And so that's what I was doing on the side. So when I worked on Wall Street, literally, I was doing magic every day of the week also. That's how I met other people at my firm. That's how I actually ended up doing a show for my company, for the CFO of Merrill Lynch at the time. And this is kind of like a coming of age story. He didn't know who I was. He thought I was a professional magician. And so at one point I did a trick where I turned dollars into hundreds. And he goes, oh my God, we gotta get you working here. And I'm like, I do work here actually. And he thought I was BSing him. And a flippant comment, he goes, what are you doing working here? What the hell are you doing working here? Literally that's what he said, what the hell are you doing working here? And I said, what am I doing working here? Like in my mind. And I quit the next month. I put in my notice and I decided to pursue this as a full-time career. You can't jump in the deep end if you're just dipping your toe in. I needed to be hungry. I need to go for it.
So as you said before, you're not an overnight success. This is 20 years in the making. So
Seriously.
You quit your job, You go out and do this. You know, a colleague of yours in the business said you did everything from bar mitzvahs to places where your feet stick to the floor.
So many bar and bat mitzvahs.
How hard was it climbing up the magic business, and what was your breakthrough moment?
I don't know if it was hard because I've always done something I enjoy. I'm not like digging ditches. I'm not a funeral director. My job is literally to bring joy to others, right? So it was never hard in that sense, but it was hard learning how to differentiate yourself from the masses. What sets you apart? How do you brand yourself, right? Think of any business. You're selling a widget. What's better? So I had to learn really quickly that either I need to deliver a service different than anyone else, or better than everyone else, or both, ideally. And so that's what I'm talking about, is how do you set yourself apart? And I think it took years to realize what it was, what that secret sauce was for me. And then my breakthrough moment, I mean, undeniably was being on America's Got Talent. I was on that show almost 10 years ago now, which is like, wow, crazy to think back. But that is also when TV was still really up. You know, everyone's watching TV, it's a weekly experience. Now you've got streamers, you discount. 2015, you didn't have Hulu and Netflix and Apple and all. You had Netflix, but that was barely it. It was just coming up. So people were still watching TV, 15 million every week, and you were getting that huge momentum boost, that rocket fuel that you just light on fire, where every stage that I got to, every round, took me to another level where I felt it day in, day out. Like I'd be recognized on the street. People were like, oh my God, you're the guy. You're Oz the Mentalist. And so, usually Oz the Mentalist, because my name is a nightmare, but I digress. And so that show really, not only did it expose me to more people, but it gave me confidence internally. Because when you start performing in front of 15 million people live on TV, national TV, at Radio City Music Hall, you start to believe in yourself in kind of a way that you didn't otherwise. I started realizing, hey, I think I'm good at this. But now you're getting the external validation from people saying, you're amazing at this. You start to really believe it.
I'm sure, you know, obviously not winning, a little bit of a disappointment, but...
Honestly, I kid you not, at the time, zero disappointment.
Really?
Zero. And it's because I never expected to get to the next round, much less win, and I am a competitive SOB. If you race me at a marathon, I'm gonna stare you down and be like, I'm gonna win today. But for some reason at that show, I just realized that every next round is more exposure, and shockingly, I'd spoken to several winners before, and if you win that show, I know you don't want to know the details, but the contract is much more limiting than if you don't win. You get all the benefits without any of the downsides. You get all pros, no cons. So I didn't care if I won. I was just happy to keep making it. Would I have loved to win? Yes, but I was not disappointed, I swear to you.
Is that when the big ticket celebrities started coming calling? You could see you've performed for a ton of people.
Well, thank you. It came kind of throughout. It's in spurts. I had moments all throughout. Before I was even on America's Got Talent, I used to know the Friars Club people here, and I would do Friars Club roasts and meet celebrities there and do sports teams. I was always a hustler. I'm one of those people who, you get me in a room, I've got chutzpah. I will find a way, if there's someone there, to meet them, to create an impression, to create that moment, amaze them, and have that turn into two, opportunities, and those 2 to 4. And I always want to leverage effectively so that you continue getting momentum. I've seen so many careers where people hit a certain point, and where do they become? Oh, you were on America's Got Talent 10 years ago, right? I don't want that to be what you say about me. It'll be on my obituary, but it's not going to be the top line. There's going to be a lot more things above it.
When did the sports world come calling? Because, you in NFL locker rooms and meetings and training camps has become, pretty ubiquitous.
So it blew up about 3 years ago. I met Adam Schefter, who I've known for well over a decade and a half, who's honestly one of the most, he's the NFL insider, not the NFL insider if you're into football. And I'd performed at some of his personal parties, his son's bar mitzvah, his daughter's bat mitzvah, his 50th birthday, and at his daughter's bat mitzvah, all the ESPN top brass were there, and that was my moment. Might as well have been like a showcase, and I blew them away. I did something tied into football, and I said, this is it right here. This is my pitch. And I think they bit. They said, you know what? This works so well here in this room. How do we take this and give this to all of our audiences and show it on the biggest stage with NFL? And I think that's where it really took off. That year we went to, I think, 3 or 4 training camps, different teams. We dripped them out, I think, really effectively throughout the season, where you saw one each every 2 or 3 weeks. So it built that relevance of, like, you see me once, you're like, who's that guy? You see him a second time, oh my God. Third time, you're like, when are we gonna see another one of these clips with Oz the Mentalist? And I think it hit that sweet spot of people getting to see those football players act like kids again. And there's something about that if you're a fan, you see them on the field, But when do you get to see them like they're sitting in your living room, acting kind of a fool and freaking out, running out of the room, screaming? I love that real human emotion, and I think people connect with it.
How does mentalism work, okay? Can you really read minds?
I can read, no. So what is mentalism? What is it really? It's magic of the mind. So what I have spent 30 years doing is learning how you think. Seriously, how do you think? And so let me give you an example. What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? I would say that you try to get inside people's heads also. You want to get an answer to a question that they haven't given 100 times before. So it's not the same cookie cutter article. So what you do is you analyze people in a certain way. So if I were to give you this question, it's a great question.
Sure.
If you could sit down in front of anyone right now in this moment and I say impulse, first person that pops in your head, it'd be near instant. Am I right? When I position the question, you know who you're going to think of first.
Yeah.
But so would someone who knows you well. That's why I would never do that. I would never do the first person because everyone has social media. You might have posted about this person. Before I walked into this studio, right? Had we ever spoken or met a word in our life? I want the viewer watching this to know.
No.
Under oath in court. Is that correct? Before I got here.
That is correct.
We didn't know each other.
Yeah.
So if I were to position the question the first person you think of, I feel it's too obvious. Boring. If I said change your mind once, second person, then it becomes a struggle. Third person, you go, oh my, who would I do? Fourth person, right? You start hitting mental blocks. Let me ask you a question, because I saw you nod on the fourth person, and I want them to know, when I ask you, think of mind, change your mind, change your mind, change your mind. You change your mind 3 times before you landed at this person. Is that right?
Yeah.
I would say that for you, given your focus at Forbes is sports, you would have leaned into sports. That's my gut. So I think the first person you thought of had to be sports. Did you change your mind on the second or third to someone not sports? Maybe. But now you slipped back into your comfort zone. Muscle memory. I think it's an athlete. Do we mind? There's a pad of paper I set aside. We didn't know we'd do this. Thank you so much. And a marker. That laugh tells me everything. Next, would you have just gone for someone great? I think you would have gone for someone great. Not on the come up. I think you want greatness. Forbes is all about money. So is there a money angle involved in this? I think there has to be. There has to be. Is it a big contract? There's something. Close your eyes for one moment. Open your eyes. I'm right about sports. Is that right?
That's correct.
Of course I knew it. And did you change one of the people? You changed your mind multiple times. Was one of the people not sports?
That's correct.
I knew it. See, I told you. You slipped back into a comfy sweatshirt at the end. That's why I kept making you change your mind. You said, what's mentalism? Mentalism is pushing people the way you want. Reverse engineering the human mind. Would you say that the sport this person plays is your favorite or not really?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Close your eyes one more time. I'm just going to show the cameras. Keep your eyes closed for me. Open your eyes. I need them to know. Because when I watch these clips, the first thing I say is, this is set up. He must have set this up with him a week ago. There is no chance that I could have known that you would change your mind twice, 3 times, 4 times before we did this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We had never spoken before you got in here. Tell us all, what sport were you thinking of?
Baseball.
And we like a winner, World Series winner. In fact, who are you thinking of? Who's sitting in this chair instead of me?
Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani.
I have no idea how you just... Well done. Well done.
And you know what Justin said to me before we got in here? He goes, it's all about money. And he said a challenge. He goes, you know what we should have done? We had a billionaire in here the other day. He should have gotten his ATM PIN code. Would anybody know your ATM PIN code?
Maybe my dad, but years ago.
If you call him after this, I want you to call your dad and say, do you remember my ATM PIN code? If your dad knew it 100%, you know what I would know? That it's something meaningful. It'd be a birthday. It'd be a birthday. If you're like, oh, my jersey number, when I played baseball as a kid, maybe I was number 7, 7777. He would know it. So the fact that you said that means that it's somehow random. Give me a random fake 4-digit code. Don't say your real one. Yell a fake code right now.
4397.
4397. Okay, here's what I think. Isn't that weird? You stumbled. You messed up a little. I think you definitely included one of your real digits. You messed up a little, but it's never the first one. No one ever does the same first one because they feel like it's going to give away. I guarantee you on my life, your real ATM PIN code does not start with a 4, does it?
It does not.
No one does that. I'm letting you know. That's how the human mind works. You said 4397. Have you ever written down this ATM pin code? Have you ever said it out loud to somebody? Have you shared this with anybody other than maybe your dad ever in your life?
No.
Is there any way that I could have looked this up online or found this out, or 0%?
0% chance.
Okay. I think you made it close. First number's a 5, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. 4 then 3. The 3's wrong. Odd number, odd number. Odd number, odd number. I think we have evens because you switched them. Rapid fire. Are you going to be mad if everybody knows your code? This one, the 3 goes there. 5643 is your ATM pin code, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm speechless.
There is a Wells Fargo 1 block away. Let's go right now. Let's go. I'm cleaning this guy out. I'm going to drop the mic, everybody. That's it for me.
Okay. How does your creative process work? How do you...
The shower and when I'm running. Honest to God, my best ideas are when I go out for a run and somehow in the shower, best Amazon purchase of the year, I bought a waterproof notepad that I have with suction cups, and I swear to God, I write down notes in the shower when it comes to me. It's when I'm not on my phone. So my creative process is I start with an ending and I work backwards. The end of the movie is what I start with. What is the effect I want my audience to have? And then I try to figure out how I could do it.
Why do you resonate so well with high-performance athletes? I mean, you've really become kind of a popular presence among the NFL and other sports. So why? How do you get in their heads?
So, one of my really big tips and tricks is I visualize success. And if you watch my clips over and over now that you know this, notice how much I tell people to visualize things. I will the same way, I like the way knowing how people think, right? The interesting part about that is, how could I have possibly known that you started sports, went to somebody not sports? Do you understand? You know how crazy that was. But anyone watching this, like, how could you have known not only what he thought of, but when he changed his mind several times? So I love thinking and realizing how people think. That's my job, the tapestry. The fun part for me is that it doesn't always go right. I swear to you, not every show is right and perfect, and that's fun because it keeps me on the edge of my seat. If I was right every time, this would be boring. It would be boring to the viewer. People sense danger when I do what I do. They go, what if it went wrong? And that's what keeps you on the edge of your seat. When you drive by a car wreck, it's internal. You can't help it. You want to look. You hope everyone's okay, but man, you got to see what happened, right? Everyone rubbernecks when they go by, oh my God, look at that crash. It's in our DNA, fight or flight. So to answer your question, what resonates? I think what resonates with these high performance athletes is they know it's real. They know it's real and it's different than a card trick. I love card tricks. I don't want to crap on magic. I love magic. I started as a magician, but what's different between me and magicians is what I do is real in the sense of there is no safety net. If you do a card trick right now and you put it back, I've practiced the moves for 20 years, I will find that card, Justin. Sleight of hand. But with what I do, when you just think of a card, it can 100% go wrong. And I think that is what draws in the athletes because what they do is also, it's live, it's real, and sports, nobody DVRs a game to watch it the next game. You need to see it in the moment. That's why sports just keeps growing and growing and growing because it's a shared experience, communal experience in a world where everything now can be streamed. You can't stream sports the next day. You want to live it. You want to live it and experience it. That's what mine is. It's an experience.
You know, you've had such incredible success. You know, you have a huge audience in the corporate market. You had told me you're going to probably hit 145 events this year. What's the future look like? What do you plan to keep going?
You know, I'm blessed. I have such gratitude that I'm literally living the dream. If you had talked to me 10 years ago, I'd be pinching myself. 20 years ago, I'd say, when I quit my job on Wall Street, I worked for Merrill Lynch, and I quit the next day, I wake up, 10 a.m., no boss. I sit on my couch, and do you know who's going to make me a star? No one. That doesn't exist. There is no someone calls you and sees you in a subway and goes, you're a star. It's BS. Pardon my French, bullshit. You make your future in showbiz. There's no path to success. So I think the answer to your question is I already feel like I hit the jackpot. So everything from now is gravy and I operate under that kind of mentality. So what's next? I can tell you I'm writing a book that I'm super excited about where I'm giving my secrets away because you don't want to be a mentalist. 99.999% of people don't want to be a mentalist, but what if you could use the skills I just showed you for 30 years in your life, at home, at work, with your boss, with your family, with your friends, to read people more effectively? What if that could give you a 10%, a 20% edge in achieving success? For $15, buy that book, because I promise you it will. I'm working on a TV series that I've been pitching for years that I finally think, fingers crossed, we've got a deal, and I want to make that something exciting that I can really believe in. And just keep doing this stuff with different sports leagues. Kind of bring what I do to a bigger and bigger and wider audience.
Any plans to slow down? Sounds like you work quite a bit.
I like to run a lot. I would like to slow down effectively in that I'm trying to work smarter, not harder. So whereas you quantified how many shows I did, I'm not looking at that number at the end of the year or my bank account, because you can always get more money. You can never get more time. And so I'm trying to be much more selective in doing things that I think will build more of a brand and that will help me establish what I do in a bigger way, rather than taking small things that I would have done a few years ago. Now I'm trying to be much more strategic and smart. But you know what? I bring joy to people, and it's very hard for me to say no. I told you on the way over here, made my day. My Uber driver gets in the car. This never happens, by the way. I get recognized in context. When I'm in a suit like you, they're like, you're always the mentalist. When I'm in civilian wear, I look like a Jewish attorney, honestly. So the guy goes right away, gets in the car, goes, you're always the mentalist? And I, right when we left, he told me he's a huge soccer fan. I go, don't say another word. And I wrote down, I go, think of any soccer player right now, any soccer player. And I hand it to him. And right as I leave, I go, what was the name of the person? And he said, it was Erwin Holland. It's the guy from Manchester City. It's a forward. And I go, keep it. And right when I walked out, as I closed the door, I was like, seeing him, I see him open it, go, oh! And it was just, and you know what? I didn't make any money. I don't care what happens. That moment, I believe he will talk about for years to come. And that's the greatest joy of what I have, which is that kind of superpower to take somebody who, I don't know if he was having a good day, a bad day, whatever, and give them that moment. And I'm lucky that I can do it, and I try to do that hopefully for millions.
Pearlman, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.